This is K.M. Weiland, and you are listening to the 276th episode of the Helping Writers Become Authors podcast. So, what are your writing goals for the new year? For the most part, 2015 seems to be shaping up to be the year of the novel for me. My two major projects will be finishing up edits on my historical diesel punk story, Storming, and getting it ready for publication in late fall or early winter, and writing the first draft of my historical superhero story, Wayfarer. After a very hectic 2014 that mostly focused on non-novel stuff, I am dancing all over on the inside with the chance to immerse myself in fictional worlds once again. However, I'm also hoping to work on a handful of writing how-to projects for y'all as well. My big goal is to get out a couple of big courses, one on outlining your novel and one on structuring your novel. I also have a most common writing mistakes book waiting in the wings, so it's going to be a fun year. And now I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast entitled Most Common Writing Mistakes, Part 37, Unnecessary Filler. Brevity is the soul of wit. However, creating that quality of brevity isn't so much about writing short as it is about making every word count. As we continue to discuss the most common writing mistakes, we'd be remiss to leave out the all-too-prevalent faux pas of unnecessary filler or padding. Unnecessary filler is almost always the result of one of four problems. 1, the writer is still trying to discover what he wants to say. 2, the writer is too in love with his own words. 3, the writer isn't confident in and/or is avoiding what he really needs to be writing about. And 4, the writer doesn't trust the reader to understand the subtext. So how can you spot unnecessary filler when it shows up in your story? The first symptom is always that it's boring. If there's no life in the scene, if its high point is just two characters exchanging monotone dialogue about a subject that readers either already understand or simply don't care about, that's a good sign it's a bad scene. Another sign of filler is a scene that's full of social conventions or routine conversations that readers either participate in themselves in their daily lives or are super familiar with from television and other books. Personal introductions and daily routines are frequent culprits. But so are courtroom rhetoric, the Miranda rights, most political speeches, ordering at restaurants, and chatting with grocery clerks, among other things. Anything repetitious is almost always going to end up, at the best, being unnecessary filler. If readers were with your character when she got the bad news about her cancer at the doc's office, then they don't need a blow-by-blow recap when she asks for prayer in church. So consider the following clogged-up scene. Diana sat in her American history class and doodled in her notebook. The teacher, Miss Kyle, scribbled her name on the chalkboard, then faced the class. Good morning, everyone. I'm Miss Kyle. I'm going to be teaching you American history. But first, roll call. She consulted her clipboard. Peter Parker? Here. Bruce Wayne? Here. Hal Jordan? Here. Diana Prince? Here, Diana mumbled. Miss Kyle finished roll call, then grabbed her brick of a history book off her desk. And now let's all turn to page 12 and learn about the disappearing settlers at the Roanoke colony. She started reading. Let's say Miss Kyle's selected passage about the Roanoke colony is super important to your plot. Even supposing that, this scene is still nothing but fluff. We might even go so far as to overlook the complete lack of a goal from Diana and the equally complete absence of any conflict between her and her super pals. But what we still can't get past is the absolute uselessness of all this routine chalkboard writing, roll calling, and history book reading. It's filler, plain and simple. So fixing this one of our most common writing mistakes is easy peasy. If it's filler, cut it. And keep right on cutting until you get to the part where something good actually starts happening. Anything crucial in this section, such as all that juicy info about Roanoke, can be framed much better in a scene that actually matters to your story. Sometimes filler can end up being an authorial darling. We had so much fun writing that scene. All those alter ego names, squee! Our inner nerd is geeking out. So just the thought of axing it raises a tear. Sadly, however, squeeing is not reason enough to keep a scene. Work your nerd moment into a different, more integral scene, or just surrender to the fact that it really does belong on the cutting room floor. Our previously clogged up scene might end up looking completely and blessedly unrecognizable. Diana ran into school late for history once again. Carol Danvers caught up in the hall. Crazy homework project, wasn't it? Homework? Diana stopped short. You're not going to believe this. Carol gaped. You forgot to do your homework again? And it was really cool this time, that whole Roanoke thing with the disappearing settlers. I swear, one of the drawings in the book looked just like you. How could you have missed that? A chill prickled Diana's arm. They looked like me? This was the clue that would unravel the whole mystery of her existence, and she'd almost missed it. Turns out, we don't even need to be in class with Diana when her teacher starts expounding about Roanoke. And we definitely don't need to meet Miss Kyle or hear that egregious roll call. Even better, this version spices things up with an actual goal and some actual conflict. Now, there's nothing wrong with writing all this filler. Sometimes we just need to get it out of our systems. And sometimes we need to write through the filler in order to find the true heart of any given scene. But don't get attached to useless blathering. As soon as you recognize the core of your scene, go back and cut out all the unnecessary filler leading up to it. The result will be a lean, mean, fascinatingly on-point story readers won't be able to resist. Thank you for listening to the Wordplay Podcast. To read a transcript of this episode, you can visit my website at helpingwritersbecomeauthors.com. And be sure to check back again next week.